Hi there, and a big welcome to the Sales Step Up. It's great to see you if you're joining us live, so do say hello, and we love to hear you joining us in the comments, so that would be amazing. And if you're watching us on replay, well, thank you so much for coming back to see this really special Step Up with my friend Mark, because this is going to be a really exciting session where we're going to rocket through so many hints and tips that you can use every single day. So if you are joining us, come and say hello. I can see Kate has previously shared this post. So if you're joining us, Kate, either live or on replay, thank you so much for that. A big shout out. So let's get started. What are we talking about today? Well, today we are talking about selling technology. Unsurprisingly, we so often talk about that, but we're going to talk about selling it business to business, which I think is relevant for so many of you out there, and not just how we used to sell it, but how people are selling it today. And in order to do that, I've got my friend Mark with me. Now, Mark and I actually met, a long time ago now, probably when I hadn't even been in business very long, in a networking group he set up. And actually, he set that up for other businesses in order to support and grow his own network. And I think that's a great example of innovative thinking in getting, building new relationships, making new friends, and getting your message out there. So big welcome to Mark. So good afternoon, Mark. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. So it's fantastic to have you on. And actually, I was just saying that, we met originally at a networking group, didn't we?
It must be over 10 years now.
I know, you make me feel old.
Yeah.
And I think that's just that was one of the reasons why I was really keen to pick up with you, because you've been selling technology like literally since the days when mobile phones were bricks and computers, were these big, huge monstrosities that were mortgage money. So I thought it would be great to have a bit of a chat around like how that's evolved and your thoughts around that. So how did you first get started in technology? How did you first get into that area?
When I was younger, I was into the first computers, Tories, Amstrads. So I think I'm naturally drawn to playing games and stuff like that. And then eventually it went to PCs, and you would go to like these big shows where they had loads of equipment. And then I started selling it on the market stall. So and then it gradually moved from a market store, and then I went across to, originally it was PC World. Many a year ago.
So what technology were you selling on the market stall? That must have been an interesting one.
Like home computers, software, shareware, basically anything, any accessories. Yeah, busy for a couple of years. Cold, especially in the winter.
And then I was going to say, and then you made the move to Currys, which would be like a little warmer, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I worked for Dixon's for one day, and then I went across to PC World because obviously interested in computers, made sense to go and work with somewhere where you like the technology.
That's it. So what do you love about selling technology? Because that is a really long career. We won't go into how many years, because obviously we're both very young and youthful. But what is it that made you like sort of get into tech, but then stay there? What is it you love about it?
I just think it was very different. People didn't know what it was. I did, so you could share your knowledge. There was such a vast range, even at the beginning. There was quite a few manufacturers out there, so everybody did something a little bit different. And obviously, over the years, it's just went bang as far as that's concerned. There's that many different things on the market. We can do practically anything you want now.
I know it has moved like so much. I know that you've mainly been doing that selling face to face as well, which I think, this we were just talking earlier on about like the changes over the last 12 months, but it's always been face to face. It's always been about those relationships for you. So what do you feel actually makes a great sales conversation in this space?
I think you just have to ask so many questions. The amount of people that come in, they want something, and actually They walk away with not what they thought they wanted, but once you start asking questions, find out what they really, really want. Everybody comes in wanting this particular item. Well, actually, that's not what they want. They just think they want that. When you find out what they want to actually use it for and how it's going to help them in their business, it's totally different than what they thought. So it's just using that bit of extra knowledge to help them along.
I think, yeah, and that's really interesting about technology as well, because quite often, and the people that you're talking to, they're not as educated as you are, which in itself can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, just the person I was talking to earlier on, for a printer that scanned, printer that printed double-sided. But when we actually had a bit deeper conversation, it was more the fact that they needed to scan double-sided. It wasn't the printing, it was the scanning. So actually, it made it from one product with total different product, and then I had to basically come back to the customer and make sure I found out the right product before we went any further, which took a little bit of Google. Which Google always gives the answer. A few manufacturers' pages to make sure I got the right product first of all.
I think as well, I think that really illustrates the role of a salesperson is almost a problem solver as well. I think there's definitely a degree of that in that sort of role, because, and you're right, people ask for one thing, but actually quite often they don't really know what they want, or maybe they're only asking for that thing because they've seen the TV advert.
Well, I think it's also for the fact that I deal with every single type of business going, so I'm not restricted in one area, and every single person's got a different need, which is what's good, because it means every customer, it keeps it going. Because I learn all the time, because there's new technology coming out there, and trying to work out how sometimes new businesses come and how they want to try and fit that technology in with it. It just keeps it fresh all the time as well.
I think that's a really good point as well, because I think, sort of saying there about there's new stuff coming all the time that I have to keep myself up to date with. That's like a bit of a challenge in itself. How do you manage that?
Internally, we've got quite a lot of training. So most manufacturers will bring lots of different training out on the devices that they bring out. And then apart from that, it's if you come across a bit of technology they're not sure about, well, you then have to go away and try and find out a little bit about it before you can have that conversation.
You want to go and press like I've always like found, like, for me, so I love obviously software and tech and stuff, and it's always like, oh, I wonder what that button does. I'll press it and find out. Maybe I should be learning like that. But you've got to have that curiosity, haven't you?
We do, and the thing is, we sell that many different products, so Currys will probably sell 10, 20,000 items, and then through business we sell another 60,000 items. And then most days someone will phone us, or I'll come on an email, or I'll have a conversation online where somebody wants something, which I've never come across before. I don't know what it is, so I've then got to go and try and find out, if we don't sell it, can I still get a hold of it? Quite often, 9 times out of 10, I can still get a hold of it. I've just got to find out what the right product is for the customer, and then try and get it set up for us to sell it.
I think that's really interesting as well, because I think in this day and age, people are so varied with their requirements. And I think equally people's requirements can change so frequently. It must be really hard always being able to make the right recommendation there. I think that's one of the benefits of being face-to-face as well, because it really means you can ask the questions that you need to get at the bottom of like what their problem is. What do you find that, so how do you get into that sort of a conversation?
Perfect example was about 2 weeks ago, somebody came in and it was a pub, and they wanted to basically take card payments outside, and they couldn't because they didn't have the wireless, and the wireless didn't work properly. So the customer just wanted to grab something off the shelf to take away, and I'm like, well, you can't take that away, but I can guarantee it's not going to work. And actually, that ended in the conversation where I recommended him to another customer of ours, right, who basically went out and visited him that night, and within about 2 days had him up and running with the right equipment. Luckily enough, they bought the equipment off me anyway, so I still got the sale. But actually, two people's benefit, that the customer's over the moon, because not only did they help him, he hasn't just got one premises, he's got several different businesses. So somebody's now got business for several different businesses, and hopefully long term I'll get all the hardware for the 7 different businesses. So and I'm helping probably 2 people along the way to get extra business with each other as well.
I think that's another really good example because everyone's looking for a quick fix as well, aren't they? Everyone's looking for a quick fix. Like, what is the quick answer here? I'll just grab something off the shelf and go, you know?
Yeah, which is not usually the answer. You have to think actually what's going to do the job properly. Yeah, otherwise you're just throwing money away.
Oh my goodness! I'm seeing Margaret's joined us there. So hi, Margaret. Thanks for joining us live. Yeah, and I think that's like a big challenge as well, isn't it? Because I think quite often people come into store, and I imagine that, you know, how often do you see people coming in and they're just looking for a quick solution? Do you find that by the time they're getting into that position, that's what they're looking for?
People often wait at the last minute to get something. I can have a conversation with somebody and I can quote somebody for, I don't know, maybe a couple of pieces of equipment for a new starter. And then 2 weeks later, they come up to us on the Tuesday or something and say, "I've got somebody starting tomorrow. Can I have that equipment?" And I'm like, "Well, it doesn't work like that. It's going to take a few days, whatever you want to get the equipment." And people usually leave it to the last minute. A little bit of planning in advance will save you money, and you'll get the right equipment for the long term as well.
You know what though? It's like so typical though. It's because everyone comes to Curry, so like I know where I'll go. That'll solve the problem. And I know that I've got a business account. I think the last thing that I bought with you guys was like an absolute shed load of ink for my printer. And I think it was at about, you know, it was really late at night. It was about 3 minutes before you're due to close, about 3 minutes to 10 on a Thursday night or something stupid like that. And it was because literally I was like, I've run out of ink and I need this all printed for 9 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, I think there are things that you sort of think, I probably should have planned a bit in advance for that, but you know, we've left it till the last minute. So it's good to know you guys are there as a resource for that, you know. There's times that, you know, that online ordering, you really want to be able to go into a store and just grab and go, you know. It's really interesting what you're saying there about being able to make recommendations. So, because a lot of your customers, I know that for you yourself, you've got loads of long-term repeat business and repeat customers, haven't you?
I've got customers that I first started with 23 years ago and I still deal with now.
And what do you put that down
to? Get a customer, they tend to speak. I'm not pushy. There's nothing worse than somebody that's pushy. When I'm in store, I've customers who have been that long, they're passing and they pop in just to say hello, or they might have a cuppa. And I think it's... if somebody comes in to buy a cartridge, I would treat somebody the same for a cartridge as if they would if they wanted to buy, I don't know, 10 PCs. And I think that's helped build a lot of relationships over the years, which is why people come back.
And I think it's that expertise as well. I think, you know, there's got to be a thing where, you know, people are coming in to buy one thing, you're saying, don't buy that, buy this, that'll give you the result that you're looking for, you know, which I think it does give you that status. I know it's this term that's bandied around, isn't it? You know, trusted advisor, but you know, there is that level of trust and also that, oh, Mark gets it, Mark understands it. So how do you start building those kind of relationships?
I think it's just about taking your time. Not everybody will buy when you first speak to them. It's something that you might have 2 or 3 conversations with. Just making sure you've got the right item, making sure there's nothing worse than having a conversation. At the end of it, you found out after you've sold the customer didn't ask the right questions, so you haven't asked him the right questions to get the right product in the end. So I think it's just about asking as much as you can, taking time.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is like with businesses, you know, there is that opportunity of repeat business. So they're not, you know, they are going to be around a bit longer, and maybe, you know, they are going to benefit more from some of that time that you spend with them as well. I mean, what are the big mistakes that you see people making in sales in this area?
Pushy. There's nothing worse than somebody that's pushy. I hate it. I walk away from it. Last year when I went to buy a car, and you go in the car showroom and they're on you straight away, and you just say, I'm just looking, but they're still doing, the same person will follow you and they'll ask you like 5-6 questions. You just say, no, I'm just looking, and then they still ask you, I'm still looking. And just recently with the sofa, and you want to go elsewhere. You don't want to be where the person's not listening to what you're saying. That me is the biggest put off of anything. And or when they ask you a question and you tell them what you want, and then you know exactly what you want. I know. I suppose it's maybe a bit like what I'm saying. That the idea is, if you ask the right questions, you will get there eventually. But I hate it when people just do not listen to the word you're saying.
Yeah, it's quite difficult when you're wanting to buy an answer to your problem and someone's trying to sell you their solution instead of the solution to your problem. It's when it's not actually a great match, isn't it? And you think, oh, I've had it before where, you're going in to buy a piece of kit, and you're still trying to find out more about the options that are available to you and weigh it up yourself. And sometimes it's when someone comes along with an agenda to sell you X item, and you think, well, I don't know if that's right for me yet. I've not had the time to find out the information. I guess that's one of the challenges, though. It's identifying where people are and what support they need to help them get the right solution.
Yeah, I mean, someone who comes in and you speak to them for the first time. I mean, me personally, yes, I'll send somebody, for instance, a quotation like earlier on, but I haven't just sent them a quotation. I've then sent them with that quotation an email, which basically has a link to every single product, the description of what they want and what it does for them.
And, I think that's what people need. Sometimes they need like almost an interpreter for some of this stuff. I think especially with technology, people do sometimes need assistance in like really understanding what things mean for them. I know that quite often I read a tech spec and I'm like, oh, that's really great, but I don't really know what that means. I don't really know what OLED means, and I don't really know what megapixels means in real life. I don't know what that really means for me. And I think having someone to actually support on that journey is really vital. Oh, I think, have we paused there? I know, we're back. Sorry, my screen just went blank there. Apologies. So obviously the last year's changed everything. Last March you went into lockdown. What did that mean for you?
I was a bit strange at first because, like, obviously it wasn't just was it? It was basically halfway around the world. Everybody was in the same situation. So I think just before we actually closed as a store, it went mad with people buying. It really, really did. I mean, everywhere was just stripped of it. I mean, they would come in and didn't matter what it was. They would, I need a printer. That's not the right printer you want, and I'm having that one because there was nothing else available. And that's what it was like. And then there was a little bit of a lull at first because things. I mean, it was hard for us. I mean, for the first, say, 3 to 4 weeks I took my computer home on the 23rd when the store closed. I took my PC home. Couldn't use it. I took it home, but within about the following week, we had sort of like temporary up and running. Then they had my VPN, and then slowly I got access to all these different things, and they brought new things in for us to be able to sell to customers. And then the other problem is with the phone lines were ringing over there, but they weren't ringing here. And eventually we got that sorted as well, where people, the phone come directly through to us. And I mean, I probably did a lot of sales that would never have ever had that opportunity to do things like, I mean, obviously I sold quite a large amount of things like NHS, where they needed technology, where councils needed technology, suddenly to be out and nobody wanted a PC, everybody needed to be mobile. People needed to work from home, so suddenly went from selling like maybe something for a desktop to suddenly they had to have a laptop. And then you've got education with things like Chromebooks and stuff like that. I mean, probably the year before I probably sold maybe 1,000, 2,000, and then the last year it's like 20,000, and it's like massive difference.
I think it's really interesting because I know that you couldn't for a little while. You couldn't get like a webcam full of money. Webcams, microphones. I mean, you just couldn't get them, could you?
Printers. And then you had the problem was you had the likes of Amazon were probably the worst person here, where you would want a wire webcam, and what they were selling for $29.99, they wanted £130 for because they had the stock.
Yeah.
So they really, really took advantage of people really, really big time, and that was bad. And I think there was a few people out there did that.
I think. I mean, I remember when I like left my office, and I had like 2 hour like supermarket sweep just to like grab everything and go, and like go home. And literally I got home and it was that whole thing like, okay, so I brought my webcam, I brought my favorite mug, but I haven't brought my tripod for my webcam. It was like real, like random, the stuff that I'd grabbed and the stuff that I'd forgotten kind of thing. So yeah, it was then like a bit of a challenge actually trying to source some of that stuff. So obviously it sounds like, the patterns of what you've actually been delivering over the last year have really changed there. Is that something you're continuing to see, or are you seeing those trends starting to settle as people start to go back to the office?
Well, a lot of technology, doesn't matter what you actually want to buy at the minute. Manufacturers are having problems. So, for instance, a couple of weeks ago, Land Rover stopped making cars, right, because they can't get raw materials. Then suddenly we find out we're struggling on printers, and then we find out there's not many washing machines. And the reason being, technology's changed that much. Now, everything out there has some kind of microchip in. Microchips are hard to get a hold of, the right ones for a lot of companies. So the next 6 months, we're probably going to go through another situation where certain products are going to be not available for a while, and they're going to run short. And whether or not that lasts the whole year, I don't know. But I mean, it is affecting a lot of companies.
It's really interesting that as well, because I think it's that whole supply chain stuff that not everybody thinks about. I think especially, we're starting to feel like we're coming out the other end, like life's getting back to normal, but there is going to be this lag effect, I guess, sort of running on that.
Well, I think the lag effect it's not necessarily coming from this country. It's coming from quite a few countries abroad, where the raw materials to make the products are what the problem is. So it's not actually making the products; they haven't got the raw materials to make it. What affects one person then falls on the other. And I don't know. So that PlayStation 5, Xbox, the sort of things people want, they've been in short supply for that long. And it's not the manufacturers that have done it. It's just they can't produce enough stock, because they kind of get the right microchips in the first place to be able to produce the stuff. Otherwise, they'd all be selling if they could.
Yeah, and so how has this impacted how you're interacting with customers then? And did you move online?
So I'm still doing both, and I'm doing online as well. So, for instance, let's have a look. Let's have a look if I put that up there. So I there you go. I've got a mobile phone, a mobile phone, and I use that, and I do video calling where people can go on the website, you click on you, they can see you, they can speak to you, they can see you, you can't see them. And so far this week, I think I've had 50 calls so far this week, and that's 50 calls I probably certainly wouldn't have had before.
That's really interesting as well. So was that technology that was there already that is just like ramped up, or is that being like brand new, introduced over the last 12 months?
So Currys first introduced it just about 2 weeks after the first lockdown. So obviously the company who must have supplied the software were about, but it wasn't used. And then overnight, it was probably one of the biggest things that our company's had for the year, and it's made a massive big difference, because suddenly you can't speak to anybody, you can't ask any questions. Now you can go online and you can actually ask somebody a question about practically anything that you want, and it's made a massive difference to how the company's finished for the year. Otherwise,
I can imagine.
had a really bad year, and if you think about it, the shop's been closed for 6 or 7 months of the past year, and a lot of the business has been done either remotely like that, by speaking to somebody, or on a video call, or a telephone like that.
And I think what that speaks to as well is that whole problem solving piece. People are still wanting the expert input into what they're actually going to invest in. Is that fair to say?
Definitely, yeah. Definitely. I mean, quite a lot of my calls that come through aren't necessarily business, because people just say Currys and they want to ask a question, and it could be about, I don't know, a cooker, for instance. But even though that's not necessarily for me, for the business side, I do sell stuff to that, obviously for landlords or everything else, but I can still find the information for the customer, and I can still give the customer the information they want. And then hopefully that'll help them buy the right product in the first place.
And what sort of move into that like online sales model, obviously that must have been like quite a big shift. And what do you think is going to happen next with that?
That's going to stay, whatever happens. It's big time. Last year we had a lot of colleagues working from home doing that on the normal Currys website as well. And now they do basically a mixture of in-store. They can be in-store carrying a tablet, and then suddenly if they're not with the customer, the headset will ring, and they can actually, if they're not with the customer, they can actually answer a call online anyway, being in the store. So they can actually do both things at once. Certainly keeps everybody a lot busier as well, which is good.
I mean, that's definitely something that I've found. So I work with some field teams, and one of the there's two really interesting things that I think have come out of this. One is that those field teams are now like doing their job, and they're still doing customer meetings and things, but they're doing them remotely like this, on a camera. They're doing them on their computers. And I think that now that customers have got their heads around that a little bit, it means for some of the teams that I'm working with, they're maybe doing like 5 or 6 meetings a day, whereas previously when they were getting in their car and going somewhere, they're maybe only doing 2 or maybe 3. So actually the number of interactions they can do is really increased there. And I think that that's definitely something that's got a place in the future. I don't think it's ever going to remove face-to-face, because I think we still love those interactions as human beings.
Microsoft Teams, you're right, for having meetings. It's conference calls before what people had. Fair enough, that was quite awkward. But the idea of a Teams meeting where you can have people across all the business all in one place at one time makes a massive big difference. You get the message across straight away. For trading, invaluable. And then I would imagine Zoom as well. I mean, I hadn't heard of Zoom at the beginning of lockdown, So, and then suddenly one of my nieces did a quiz online, and then since then, for the past year, nearly every week, we basically do it with friends and family, where you can do a video call, you can see people, you can talk to them, you can do a quiz, you can do anything. That technology is just massive in the last year.
I think it's fascinating as well, that personal application of the technology as well, because you're absolutely right. And interestingly, my husband's family, none of them are local. And we used to see them. This sounds terrible, but we used to see them at, weddings and funerals. That's when we all used to get together. But at the beginning of lockdown, one of the families said, "Hey, let's all get on a Zoom." We know them, we really got to know that side of the family, because it got to the point we were meeting up once every couple of weeks on Zoom, and sometimes people would be there, sometimes they wouldn't. We'd have a glass of wine, we'd have a chat, and actually that's really strengthened and created some relationships that weren't really there before. And you're right, the technology existed, but it was more about maybe the willingness or the ability to embrace that kind of wasn't there,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't even know what Zoom was before lockdown. Never heard of it. Now I think, truthfully, totally invaluable.
Oh, you've got a supporter here. Look, there's Mike saying hello. Hi, Mike. Great to see you on the live. And you're right, Mark's been a superstar here, sharing some of his inside thoughts on this. So lovely to see you live. Thanks so much for joining. And if you are watching us live, remember, if you've got a question to put to Mark, then this is your chance. Just pop it in the comments, and I'm sure that he'd be delighted to ask. You'd be delighted to answer those questions, wouldn't you, Mark?
Definitely, yes. Definitely.
So I think that this remote thing is definitely going to continue. So what's that going to mean for you? Are you going to continue in a blended role there, a little bit in store, a little bit online, or have you got a preference one way or the other?
The online, where I'm on like the video chat, I'm doing that for about half of me hours. So I'll probably do that for about 20 hours a week. If I'm not on a call, I'm still working anyway. So and if basically a call comes through on the video, I'll answer that and I'll pause whatever else I'm doing. So I'll get through it. So 20 hours on a video call could end up with 40 hours for the week in between the two anyway. So it just basically means I'll always be busy. It's nothing worse when it goes quiet.
I know. Nobody likes to be quiet, do they? And I think that a lot of what you're talking about here as well is, we've got this great technology now. We've got different ways of interaction, but you also have always come up with innovative ways to get to know people. And I know that we both know Mike through networking. Yeah. And I know that networking was something that you started to really build your business network. I mean, how do you feel that networking is going to be impacted, sort of like now and in the future, in building those relationships, because so much is online?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've never done an online network, or I've never been to one for well over a year. I would imagine I've already seen a couple of people advertising that they're starting to get back together in a networking group. Bit wary about that. Maybe something later on the year if things progressively get better. But it does make a difference, I think, in network and actually physically speaking to somebody rather than doing it online.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you just
I
get a
feel
different
like
feeling.
especially like for me, especially like for B2B selling, I think it's such a great way to meet other businesses. And I think, again, one of the things that I've felt over the last 12 months is that the other businesses around me who I'm friendly with, that's been very helpful and supportive. And a lot of those, we might not have even done business before, but we've helped and supported each other through all of this. And if it hadn't been for networking, I would never have met those people. So it is one of those things that I don't totally understand. I have done a couple of the online networking sessions and just not really quite got away with them. But I would really love to get back to a little bit of face-to-face networking, just because I miss people. How have you found that networking has supported growing your business relationships?
Didn't hear anything there. It went off.
Oh, goodness, I was
That's
just saying,
technology.
how have you found that networking has supported your business success? Oh, have we gone quiet again?
Couldn't hear anything.
Have you still got me, Mark? Have you still got me, or am I gone? I'm thinking I'm gone.
I can hear now.
Okay, you can hear me now. Okay, right. The appliance of technology. You see, there we go. We were just talking about that. I was just asking how you feel that networking is supported your business and sales success. Oh goodness, I'm feeling like we've got a tech challenge.
Yeah, you know. I can hear it was breaking up
Okay.
constantly.
I was just saying, how do you feel that networking supported your business and sales success?
I think a lot of it will come through. I mean, obviously, people I've met have come and bought off us, but I think a lot of people who I've met in the past have recommended me to other people because they actually know who I am. So, for instance, Mike popped up before there. I originally met Mike in networking. Mike's bought off us. I'm sure he's recommended quite a few people to me in the past. Likewise, as well. Not very often we see each other, but I still every now and then send him a couple of bits and bobs which I've come across for his electrical wiring problems.
I think, it's great to build those relationships. So I've got to ask, what is your favorite piece of technology out of all the technology that you sell or that you've come across? What's your favorite thing? What's the thing that you most enjoy or that you couldn't live without?
I couldn't live without an iPad or a mobile phone. If I go back a couple of years ago, I mean, obviously everybody's got one. Everybody's got one of these now, and they're so powerful they can do everything. Whereas at one time you'd have carried a digital camera around. You might have had to carry a laptop around to send an email. Everything's in one place now. So I think basically the mobile device is probably the most important thing there is out for anybody these days.
Yeah, I didn't know that I could live
Not
without
just a
my
mobile.
phone. I think I'm a bit addicted.
Your phone's your office.
Yeah.
So if you need to get your email, you get your email. If you need to check your LinkedIn's there. Right? If you basically obviously I use like my most popular app on there is the VAT calculator. But it's just handy to have because, yeah, people say, that calculator. I'm like, well, yeah, because I quite often have a conversation with somebody, about the VAT, and they'll have to work it out straight away on the VAT calculator. So for business, it's probably one of the most popular ones I use. But yeah, you can use anything you want on it. Replaces that many different devices, not permanently, but it does make a big difference. I mean,
I definitely think I've got a bit of a
the
phone
likes of the
addiction,
phone,
though.
you can
My
buy this
husband's
phone, yeah, you
always...
can buy a dock with where you plug it in, have a keyboard and mouse and a monitor on it.
What, and like use it like a laptop almost?
Sorry?
So it's like you're almost using it like a laptop.
Well, you can do with that. You can turn that into a full computer with a dock. It's basically a small cable. That the cable has a little device you can plug a TV or a monitor into. A wireless keyboard and mouse connects to the internet, and basically uses it a bit like a very, very powerful Android computer. Looks like Windows, because I've got Office on the phone. You can use all the applications on the phone that you can use on there as well.
That's fantastic. It gives, I think the thing is, it's that mobility that, that ability to, independent work locations that they're talking about now. Location independent. That's what it is, isn't it? Location independent working. I think that's going to be a really common trend. I think, especially after this last 12 months, people have realized that they don't necessarily need to be from home. They don't necessarily need to be from the office. They can work anywhere. One of the businesses that I've been working with, they've actually shut down their offices, and their MD moved up to deepest, darkest Scotland, where they'd always wanted to be. Their team are spread about, and they've just decided they're going to work like that from now on in, because I think, it is that realization that actually you can work anywhere, really.
Yeah, definitely, it's going to make a big difference. I would imagine there's going to be a few empty office blocks everywhere. It's probably be one of the sectors which is going to probably struggle, I would have thought, over the next year. But if you don't need to, you probably don't. If you had 200 people in your office before, at the minute you could probably only get 30 or 40 in anyway. So, and then everyone's probably bought the equipment for people to work at home anyway. So, do you need that extra expense as a business? Do you not need somewhere smaller going forward? I would imagine that's going to happen to a lot of businesses.
I think more and more people are going to end up with like a hybrid approach as well, where people are in the office sometimes, they're working from home sometimes. And actually, I think that probably, I know on LinkedIn, they quite often do like the polls. And it seems to me that that's what most people are wanting as well. They're wanting a more blended approach to learning, so not learning, and to working. And of course, the technology's there to enable that now. I think mindsets have changed around that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I need to ask you one last thing, because we always ask at the end of every one of these sessions, we ask for your expert insights. The last thing I'm going to ask you is about, as a salesperson watching this today, what 3 things could I do to increase my success in selling technology?
I didn't hear that, sorry.
Oh, I was asking my last question, Mark, which is, what 3 things could salespeople today do to increase their success in selling technology? Have you got me there?
Good question. No, I still didn't quite hear that one, was it? What 3 things could people
do today to increase their success in selling technology?
Good question. I had this brought down before as well.
I put you on the spot, that's why, isn't it?
I did. I actually have it wrote down. Yeah. What 3 things to help you? Well, I think we probably went through this earlier on. I suppose that's why. So I think the most important thing at the minute is listening to the customer, because people don't always, as I said before, don't always know what they're looking for. technology does that many different things. Someone will come in, think they want to do one thing, and then when you ask them actually what they need to do, actually they need to do something totally different to what they were going to buy in the first place. So it's making sure that you listen to every single thing they want, and then basically ask them the right questions. And I think once you've even been through it the first time, you then need to recap it again and go back through. So yes, you said you wanted to do this, you wanted to do that, and you want to do this. Otherwise, you'll find out, oh no, I didn't want it to do that. So it's just repeatedly asking the same question. I think a lot of research as well. People don't always research what they need to buy. So someone will ask me for something, and I'll have to maybe spend a couple of hours making sure I actually get the right solution for the customer.
Yeah.
Google's the best. Google's my best friend. It's as simple as that. I'll go into Google and I should hopefully find all the answers. I did it earlier on. Someone was asking about connecting something to a server, asking what the port was at the back of the server. He didn't know, sort of describe what it looked at. So I had to go and find out what the back of the server looked like to make sure I was still on the right device. So again, a bit of Google, making sure you've got the right thing there. And I think that the person earlier on who came in for the emergency buy, where they just wanted to grab something off the shelf, if I hadn't asked them the right questions, and he would have went out with basically something else and then come back and told us it didn't work. Well, I knew it wouldn't work, but it's just making sure you get it correctly in the first place.
I think that's so important as well. I think they all sit together really well, because I think a lot of that is about, sort of listening, asking great questions. And actually, to be honest with you, Mark, going a bit above and beyond. I'm sure there's a lot of people who wouldn't have gone to the effort to go and find a picture of the back of the server to make sure they sold the right thing, And I think, yes, that's going above and beyond, but I think it's also bringing your expertise to bear, because you really know what you're talking about on top of that as well.
Well, I think it's also, I mean, apart from what they're going to use what actually they use the name for, what actually business is, what they want to do in the future as well. Because actually, you want to future-proof it as well. There's nothing worse than somebody spending 250 quid or 300 quid and finding out, well, actually, I've got to replace it in 2 years' time because I didn't buy the right item in the first place. If I'd spent a bit more money, it would have last a lot longer.
I totally agree with that as well. I think especially for businesses, they're looking for long-term solutions as well, Oh, Mark,
which is how we repeat
fantastic. Yeah, completely, which is of course where your success has been, So it's been great having you on today on the Sales Step Up. I know that people can get in touch with you by connecting with you on LinkedIn. And for those of you watching, Mark is tagged in the post above this. So you do go across and connect with Mark. He is your go-to. And of course, you are based here in the Northeast, but obviously now you can talk to anyone from anywhere, can't you?
Yeah. I would say half my customers are from the Northeast. They're scattered all across the country. And that's changed more so, and that's probably changed more so in the last year. Yeah.
Oh, completely, yeah. So I think, if you do want to connect with Mark, you do want some impartial advice, then Mark's definitely someone that you need to talk to and have on your speed dial. So thanks so much for joining with us today, Mark.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, so how amazing was that? It's really interesting as well. I think that the changes that have happened over the last 12 months really are going to have far-reaching effects. And I think that seeing from someone like Mark, not just where the trends have been, but where he sees them going is really, really helpful. I also think the whole thing around, that listening and questioning, whatever you're selling, I think it's so important. But it just goes to illustrate that, people are really interested in getting a solution and they're looking for an outcome. So I think that it just goes to show that approach is really how you can build your success. So if you've joined us live, thank you so much. I can see a few of you on there now. So thanks for joining us live. If you joined us on the replay, also, thank you so much. You can be reminded of every time that we go live with the Sales Step Up very quickly and easily, just by signing up on the link I'm about to put up, which is b.link/SSC. So do sign up for reminders, and we'll also be pulling out the very best snippets so that you can quickly digest those on a regular basis. So until next time, stay safe, keep selling, and just remember to keep asking those questions, listening to your customers and solving those problems. I look forward to seeing you very soon.